You're watching Tag TV. You're watching Tag TV.
Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that talks about the breeding of terrorism and its impact on South Asian nations. Let's begin with the headlines first. China gives into international pressure, MasoodAzhar a global terrorist now. Afghan peace deal hinges on ceasefire by Taliban, says US peace envoy Khalilzad. Easter Sunday terror attack, a revenge of Syria, reveals Baghdadi in his exclusive video. And the United States issues new travel advisory, warns its people from travelling to Pakistan. Pakistan-based Jaish-e-Mohammed chief MasoodAzhar has been designated a global terrorist by the United Nations Sanctions Committee 1267 after China withdrew its long-standing block to the move, marking a major diplomatic and political victory in the Indian government's efforts to counter cross-border terrorism. The Committee on the Islamic State and Al-Qaeda announced in a press release that the designation of Azhar has come over his organization's ties to Al-Qaeda. Following the designation now, the onus lies on Pakistan to take 3 steps that include freezing the funds and financial assets of Azhar, enforcing a travel ban on him, and cutting off his access to arms and related material. Here is an exclusive report. On 1st May 2019, when the entire world was celebrating World Labour Day, for MasoodAzhar, it turned out to be a black day because the blacklisting of the Jaish leader is certainly going to push him into the darkest days of his life. As the events turned out in favour of New Delhi, India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Syed Akbaruddin got a message from Indonesia's envoy to the UN informing that there has been no objection from any country in the UN Security Council for listing of Jaish-e-Mohammed chief MasoodAzhar. By not objecting to Azhar's listing at Pakistan's behest, China had finally shifted from its position after 10 years of consistent stalling to designate him as a global terrorist at the UN Security Council Resolution 1267 Sanctions Committee.
The chairperson of the UN Sanctions Committee, the permanent representative of Indonesia, has informed us that MasoodAzhar stands designated as an individual who has been promoting terrorism globally. This is for us a significant outcome because we have been at it for several years.
The blacklisting of MasoodAzhar will now subject him to asset freeze, which requires all states to freeze funds, financial assets, economic resources of designated individuals, entities. Along with freezing of assets, MasoodAzhar will also be subjected to travel ban that requires all states to prevent entry into or transit through their territories by designated individuals. MasoodAzhar will also be subjected to arms embargo, which requires all states to prevent direct or indirect supply of arms related materials to designated individuals and entities.
According to the Sanctions Committee, Pakistan and all other states, they are basically required to take 3 steps. The first is to freeze the funds and other financial assets of MasoodAzhar. The second is that there will be an imposition of travel ban on MasoodAzhar. And third, there will also be an arms embargo to prevent direct or indirect supply of arms to the individual. Now, Pakistan is responsible to the international community to take such actions as demanded by the UN Sanctions Committee. And if you go through the details, you will realize that the 1267 Sanctions Committee has also been mandated to oversee the implementations of the sanctions and the measures which have been put in place. We and the international community, we have been demanding Pakistan to fulfill its international obligations by taking credible, verifiable and irreversible action against terrorists and terror groups operating from areas under its control.
The Jaish-e-Mohammed leader MasoodAzhar is among the most motivated, committed and dangerous terrorists in the world. According to intelligence agencies, as many as 18 of Azhar's family members are Jaish-e-Mohammed fighters or motivators. On December 31st, 1999, MasoodAzhar, a top commander of Pakistan-based Harkatul Mujahideen, was released in exchange for passengers of IC-814 flight hijacked by Pakistani terrorists. Following his return to Pakistan, MasoodAzhar set up a new terrorist outfit, Jaish-e-Mohammed, whose audacious attacks brought India and Pakistan to the brink of war on several occasions. After IC-814 hijack, Jaish-e-Mohammed, led by MasoodAzhar, perpetrated several other deadly attacks in India that include 2001 Jammu and Kashmir Assembly attack that killed 38 people, which was followed by 2001 Parliament attack that claimed the lives of 7 people. Jaish-e-Mohammed also carried out several attacks in Kashmir during 2014 to 2015, which led to the deaths of over a dozen security personnel. In 2016, there were 3 terrorist attacks carried out by Jaish-e-Mohammed in India that together claimed the lives of 27 security personnel. The Pulwama attack was the latest horrific terror attack that killed 40 Indian CRPF personnel.
Pakistanis are also very wise that they cannot take very severe action against Azhar Masood beyond the bare minimum. But they will make sure that they through the cosmetics of it are there, and the terrorist attacks on India, or the camps for which are anti-Indian to attack India and Kashmir and elsewhere, are carry on as normal, and they will now have the full backing of China to come halfway, meet India halfway and do that. So we'll have to be careful also that the Chinese put pressure on us. We must stick to our stand.
Shortly after the February 14 suicide attack in Pulwama, France, with the backing of the US and the UK, moved a proposal at the 1267 Sanctions Committee to sanction MasoodAzhar. The heavy lifting was done by the US as it wanted the terrorist attack for Azhar during consultations on April 23rd. India and its Western allies also continued to work with China throughout this period. During a visit to Beijing last week, Foreign Secretary Vijay Gokhale shared evidence on the role of Azhar and Jaish-e-Mohammed in terrorist attacks with Chinese officials. Finally, under intense international pressure, China reversed its long-held stance on MasoodAzhar, and the Jaish leader got proscribed under the UN sanctions list of 1267.
आज भारत को आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में बड़ी अहम कामयाबी हासिल हुई है जब यूनाइटेड नेशंस सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल ने पाकिस्तान में स्थित और वहां से समर्थित आतंकवादी संगठन जैश-ए-मोहम्मद के सरगना मसूद अजहर को ग्लोबल टेररिस्ट घोषित कर दिया है। करीब 1 दशक से भारत यूनाइटेड नेशंस में इसके लिए कूटनीतिक प्रयास कर रहा था। आज भारत को यह एक बहुत बड़ी कामयाबी मिली है। पुलवामा में भी हुए आतंकवादी हमले सहित भारत की धरती पर कई बड़ी आतंकवादी वारदातों को अंजाम देने वाले मसूद अजहर और उसके संगठन को उनके द्वारा किए गए अपराधों और गुनाहों की सज़ा दिलाने में यूनाइटेड नेशंस का यह कदम काफ़ी मददगार सिद्ध होगा।
The statement issued by the UN on Azhar's listing refers extensively to his links with Al-Qaeda, its slain chief Osama bin Laden and Taliban, and his role in supporting and facilitating these terrorist entities and providing them arms. The blacklisting of MasoodAzhar was blocked 4 times at the UNSC Resolution 1267 Sanctions Committee. A 5th proposal to sanction Azhar was moved by France, the US and UK last month, and this time China had been forced to choose sides on the issue of terrorism. Now, since China has saved itself from facing global embarrassment, there will be more pressure on Islamabad to crack down on terrorists operating from its soil. In a bid to keep the peace talks afloat amid continuous attacks perpetrated by Pakistan-backed Taliban militants and Islamic State insurgents in Afghanistan, US Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad arrived in Kabul looking to broker peace between Afghan government and Taliban negotiators. Meanwhile, in a similar process, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani held a consultative Grand Assembly in Kabul, influencing the peace talks in the war-torn country. A report.
Late in the month of April, US Special Envoy for Peace in Afghanistan Zalmay Khalilzad arrived in Kabul to keep the peace talks afloat in the war-torn country where Pak-backed Taliban militants have been continuously targeting civilians and security forces to hamper the ongoing peace process. Looking for a possibility of peace with Taliban, the US envoy based a declaration of a permanent ceasefire and an enduring commitment from Taliban to end the war as two pillars to sustain the peace agreement.
چیزی که طالبان میخواین که درباره قوای امریکا، چیزی که ما میخوایم درباره تروریسم، اگر به موافقان برسیم گپ نهایی نمیشه تا این مسئله و مسئله آتش بس دائمی که ختم جنگ باشه روش موافقه نشده باشه مسئله ختم نیست.
Ahead of his meeting with the Taliban in Qatar, the US diplomat met the Afghan President Ashraf Ghani and apprised him of Taliban's demands, which are primarily focused on the withdrawal of US forces from the country. The US has about 14,000 troops in Afghanistan as part of NATO-led mission known as Resolute Support that is training and assisting the Afghan government security forces in their battle against Taliban militants and extremist groups such as Islamic State and Al-Qaeda.
ما خود در جستجوی یک صلح هستیم، در جستجوی یک حل سیاسی هستیم، نه در جستجوی برآمدن. ما صلح را میخواهیم که امکان برآمدن بده.
Meanwhile, Afghan security forces are engaged in a battle against Taliban and Islamic militants who have been fighting with each other that has caused thousands of villagers to flee their homes in Nangarhar province that shares boundary with Pakistan. Taliban and Islamic State militants have been fighting for more than a week in the eastern border province since Islamic State militants seized 6 villages in that area. Intense and continuous attacks launched by the Taliban and Islamic militants on each other and on civilians of Afghanistan has plunged the country in a state of turmoil. To ease down the situation, Afghan president has been making several attempts to broker peace agreement with Taliban. Known as Loya Jirga, President Ashraf Ghani recently held a 4-day consultative Grand Assembly in Kabul to influence peace talks between United States and the Taliban.
یکی از وظایف نمایندگان محترم در لوی جرگه این است که صلح را تعریف کنیم. آیا طالبان به صلح آماده هستند یا خیر؟ شما این سوالات و خواسته های مردم را در رابطه با صلح جهت میدید. توقع مردم این است که شما به هم دیگر پذیری و برادری و خواهری درباره صلح و ثبات صحبت کنید.
Since Islamic State militants appeared in eastern Afghanistan in around 2014, the security concerns have further escalated among the top brass in Kabul. Afghan security forces along with US military are now tackling multi-pronged militancy in the country. In the western provinces of Badghis and Kunduz, the forces have been involved in continuous insurgencies against Taliban militants, and the perforated eastern borders have become the launchpads for Pak-sponsored terrorists joining ranks in anti-establishment forces. In such a scenario, brokering peace agreement with Taliban in lieu of US troop withdrawal would hardly bring any stability in the war-torn country.
A video footage released by Al-Furqan, a media network of Islamic State, has given a new dimension to the suicide bomb blast that took over 250 lives and left thousands injured in Sri Lanka. In the 18-minute video, a man purported to be Islamic State leader Abul Bakr al-Baghdadi was seen declaring the attack as revenge against Islamic State's last fallen stronghold in Syria. The video footage has echoed the power corridors in Sri Lanka, putting Sri Lankan security forces on high alert after new intelligence reports suggest fresh attacks by Islamic militants before Ramadan. A report. Weeks after a series of suicide bomb blasts rattled prominent churches and hotels, killing over 250 people in Sri Lanka, Islamic State's media network has recently released a threatening video message declaring Easter Sunday blast a revenge against its fallen stronghold Baghouz in Syria.
وهذا الثبات خلعت له قلوب الصليبيين وأهله مع الصليب وأهله معركة طويلة، وأن معركة الباغوز انتهت وقد تجلت فيها همجية ووحشية أمة الصليب تجاه أمة الإسلام، وفي نفس الوقت ظهرت وتجلت فيها شجاعة وجلد وثبات أمة الإسلام، وهذا الثبات خلعت له قلوب الصليبيين.
In the 18-minute video from the Al Furqan network, a bearded man with Baghdadi's appearance was seen calling out for militants operating in West Africa to multiply their attacks against Crusader France and its allies. Seeking revenge for its killed members and proclaiming the resurgence of jihadis, the purported Islamic State leader took attacks in Sri Lanka as a metric to showcase ISIS's significant presence across the globe.
جزا الله الإخوة في الولايات عموما على غزوتهم الموحدة المباركة ثأرا لإخوانهم في الشام، والتي قد بلغت 92 عملية في 8 دول، وهذا إن دل فيدل على وحدة صف المجاهدين وثباتهم ووعيهم وإدراكهم لمتطلبات المعركة وفهمهم للواقع الذي يعيشونه. ونبارك لإخوانكم في ليبيا ثباتهم وغزوتهم المباركة ودخولهم إلى بلدة الفقهاء.
Meanwhile, the United States believes members of the terror group blamed for Sri Lanka's Easter Sunday attacks may be at large and planning more assaults. The US ambassador to Sri Lanka, Ambassador Elena Teplitz, earlier said the terrorist threat is ongoing and there may be active plotting underway.
I can't comment on specific intelligence or investigative information, but I believe our warning is valid and still stands, which is that we do believe that there is active plotting underway, and we have warned US citizens and then of course others who might read our warnings to be mindful of places that might make attractive targets for terrorists.
Sri Lanka security forces have been on high alert since the Easter Sunday bombings. As per the alleged intelligence reports, Islamic State militants could plan fresh attacks before the start of the holy Islamic month of Ramadan. Terming Easter Sunday bombings a new global phenomenon, US ambassador appealed to forge alliances between the countries to end the rising scourge of global terrorism.
Terrorism like this is a global phenomenon. So we're working in Sri Lanka, working in collaboration with the authorities here, but also trying to bring all the resources we can to bear about our knowledge of the global networks. Again, this has to be part of a partnership, and not just between the United States and Sri Lanka, but with many other partners who seek to end the scourge of terrorism of this kind. So we are bringing everything we can to bear on the effort here.
Sri Lankan police has recently released pictures and names of men they described as suicide bombers involved in attacks that targeted hotels and churches. Police suspect members of two previously little-known groups, National Tawheed Jamaat and Jamaiyatul Milathu Ibrahim, for carrying out the bombings. The involvement of international terrorist group in the deadly Easter Sunday attack that rocked Sri Lanka has raised worries for the Premier of the country, Ranil Wickremesinghe, raising concerns over the influence of international terrorist groups, designated the attack in Sri Lanka different from terrorism done to achieve political aims.
We are no stranger to terrorism, but what has taken place earlier has been in respect of achieving political aims, whether it be in the north or the south. But this is different. It's tied to international terrorism, and all these acts of destruction are for the sake of achieving what they call is a religious goal, but really is not possible under Islam. It's a misguided people. But nevertheless, it is very, very worrying. And while we may have these targets now, the targets can change later if they are allowed to roam around.
Wary of flaring up of anti-Muslim sentiment in the country, Sri Lankan Prime Minister ascertained that the reconciliation process is making inroads across the country and special emphasis is being laid on the areas where there could be a slightest possibility of anti-Muslim riots. After the dastardly Easter Sunday attack, national security and forging alliances in South Asia to counter global terrorism must be on the top priority for Sri Lanka, the country in a run-up to the presidential elections this year. The United States of America recently issued a new set of advisories for its citizens who are planning to travel to Pakistan. The travel advisory issued by the US State Department has warned its citizens from traveling to Pakistan as the country is under high risk of terror attacks owing to the state patronage being provided to terror groups in Pakistan. The advisory specifically mentions the prevailing threat in Pakistan, Balochistan, POK and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa due to terrorism and extrajudicial kidnappings and killings, a report.
Since decades, Pakistan has been paying heavy price for breeding terrorism on its soil. In a latest jolt to Pakistan, the US has advised its citizens to reconsider their travel to Pakistan due to terrorism and has asked them not to travel to Restif Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, identified as the most dangerous areas due to terror attacks. While Pakistan in general has been placed in Level 3 category in the latest travel advisory issued by the US, several other parts of the country including Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and POK have been placed in the most dangerous Level 4 category in which US citizens are asked not to travel due to high-risk areas.
This is a very, very major slap on the face of Pakistan. It is going to affect Pakistan in a very significant manner. At this point of time, there is a team from IMF which is looking into Pakistan's desire to get an $8 billion package where they are looking at CPEC and various other activities. Similarly, FATF is very closely monitoring the situation in Pakistan and other European Union organizations plus the UN Security Council. Under these circumstances, this sort of an advisory given by America, which has a very major influence, is a huge setback for Pakistan, and Pakistan ought to be exceedingly worried about this, because I am very certain that by September Pakistan is likely to be transferred from grey list to blacklist, and secondly the IMF loan may not come through, because India as well as America has cautioned the world body and the International Monetary Fund that Pakistan's debt repayment capability is almost nix, and under these circumstances they must be very careful in bailing out Pakistan.
Pakistan's airspace is always under high risk of terror attack. Taking cognizance of this threat, the State Department of the USA has informed that the Federal Aviation Administration has issued a notice asserting that terror groups continue plotting possible attacks in Pakistan. In view of the growing threat from Pakistan's airspace, the US has asked its diplomats to restrain themselves from traveling to Pakistan as terrorists have targeted US diplomats and diplomatic facilities in the past, and information suggests they will continue to do so.
They target foreign diplomats because they have maximum payoffs. The moment a diplomat is kidnapped or targeted, it picks up world headlines, CNN, BBC and everything, and that is exactly what they want, the propaganda value. They want to appear on the world TV that they've been able to hit those who matter most as far as they are concerned.
The travel advisories issued to the people of USA is a showcase of dreadful situation of Pakistan. Whether it is civilians or foreign diplomats, everyone is under constant target of terrorists. As a result of which the USA has also advised its citizens to remain aware of the surroundings and local events and to minimize the duration of trips to public markets, restaurants, government and military institutions and other locations.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@ani.in.com. This is Surbhi Sharma signing off on the behalf of entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.